This podcast is an invitation to feel and experience the souls of famous old Hollywood homes and to have an in-depth journey to the areas where they're located through interviews with longtime residents. Either you're a fan of old Hollywood in Los Angeles, planning to have a vacation, or, an even bigger step, considering a certain area for your future home. This is your opportunity to receive valuable information and insightful advice you won't find anywhere else.
Hello, and welcome to my podcast. Are you in the mood for California? Today, we'll explore and feel Schindler House and the neighborhood where it's located in West Hollywood with Tom Engle.
Well, I think, when most people think of West Hollywood, they think of Santa Monica Boulevard, they think of Boys Town, they think of the Pump and all those big touristic attractions. I live west of Cienega, and it's got a really nice, small, friendly neighborhood vibe. It's like living in a garden, honestly, and the people are just lovely and friendly. I love seeing the hills and all the different vegetation. It's a real joy.
Masha Korpacheva is a California-based realtor and a member of the National Association of Realtors in Los Angeles. She's an advocate for selling and buying homes with soul and practicing mindfulness in real estate. With master's degrees in spiritual psychology and linguistics, Masha brings all of her skills to work with her clients. An intuit and empath, she has touched many lives with her outstanding ability to see beyond the visible and helping to come to better understanding of issues and their resolutions. An adventurous world traveler, from climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania to exploring the Galapagos Islands, Masha has a particular passion for the City of Angels. Having landed in this paradise and adopted it as her home, she's been sharing old Hollywood stories since 2007. In the mood for California, feel the soul of old Hollywood.
And now, are you ready to experience the Schindler House? Imagine stepping into a world where architecture whispers tales of innovation, collaboration, and the beating heart of creativity. Let me take you on a journey to the Schindler House, a place that stands as a vibrant testament to the dreams and daring spirit of its creator, Rudolf Schindler. Our story begins in the early 1920s, in a place where traditional homes and rigid floor plans held sway. Amidst this backdrop, Schindler's vision began to take shape, inspired by the beauty of Yosemite National Park. Picture in your mind's eye the artist and his wife Pauline as they escaped to the rugged landscapes of Yosemite. Nature's embrace ignited a spark within Schindler's soul, and with that fire he returned to craft a design that would resonate with the spirit of sharing and togetherness, and would forever alter the course of architecture. A house and studio that would become a pioneer of modern living in both the United States and Europe. A haven for two families to live and create side by side, much like the spirit of Kari Village in Yosemite National Park. The year was 1921, and Schindler's imagination danced with possibilities. He sketched, he pondered, and with each stroke of his pen, he breathed life into a structure that would embrace the concept of space architecture. This ingenious approach focused not just on walls and ceilings, but on the magic that happens within those spaces where lives unfold. Come with me to the sunlit days of November and December, when Schindler's blueprint came alive on paper, and then construction began in February 1922, with Clyde Chase stepping in as builder to keep expenses in check. The house rose from the earth, a canvas for Schindler's architectural poetry, and by June that year, it stood proudly defying conventions and redefining what a home could be. It was a very bold departure from the norms of its time. In a world filled with standard living rooms and structured layouts, Schindler dared to challenge tradition. There were no cookie-cutter spaces here, no rigid walls confining the imagination. Instead, the Schindler House was a playground of open spaces and sliding panels, a sanctuary where the boundaries between indoors and outdoors blurred into a harmonious melody. It turned into a masterful combination of interconnected apartments, each a chapter in the largest story of creativity and camaraderie. These L-shaped spaces, woven together like threads in a tapestry, were not just homes, but vessels of inspiration. The utility room, a nexus of activity, became the heart where daily life merged with artistry, where cooking, sewing, and laughter echoed through the walls. As the house continued to take shape, Schindler's determination became evident. Challenges arose, but he faced them with head on, much like a protagonist in a novel fighting against the odds. Local planning authorities initially raised their eyebrows at this innovative approach, but Schindler's persistence and impassioned talks led to a temporary permit, a small victory that paved the way for his dreams. Envision a house built not just on a flat concrete slab, but on an idea for a new way of living. Tilt-up concrete slabs, a method that Schindler had long admired, embraced the walls and their dual nature, solid and protective at the back, permeable and welcoming at the front. Feel the anticipation in the air as construction neared its end. In June 1922, the final brush strokes were added, and the house stood complete. It was accomplished at a total cost of $12,550. Both the Chase and Schindler families embraced the house, sharing its spaces and weaving their stories into its walls. The shared chapter continued until July 1924, when the Chases set their course for Florida. As seasons shifted, a new chapter dawned as Schindler's friend, partner, and rival, Richard Neutra, entered the narrative and lived in the Chase apartment with his wife and son from 1925 until 1930. In August 1927, Pauline, Schindler's wife, chose a different path, leaving the house and her husband behind. Yet Rudolf Schindler remained a steady presence until his final days in 1953. The Chase apartment hosted a gallery of luminaries, from the art dealer and collector Galka Scheer to the graceful dancer John Bovingdon, the imaginative novelist Theodore Dreiser, the visionary photographer Edward Weston, and the harmonious composer John Cage. In the late 1930s, a gentle return took place. Pauline Schindler found solace in the embrace of the Chase Studios, a corner of the house that held its own memories. This poignant reunion carried her through the changing tides until May 1977, marking the end of an era. And so, we stand before the Schindler House today, not just as witnesses to history, but as bearers of its legacy. It's more than just bricks and concrete. It's a symphony of stories, a canvas of dreams, and a sanctuary of shared creativity that continues to inspire us all. And here we are. I'm so excited to have amazing Tom Engle here with me. Born and raised in suburban New York, first part of career, Tom spent working on Madison Avenue in advertising and magazine publishing, working for Details, Esquire, and Vanity Fair. After burning out on New York and advertising, Tom relocated to Miami. As a Spanish speaker who majored in Latin American studies, he liked the Caribbean vibe and got into design, working on the launch of David Sutherland Showroom in Miami. After a little over 6 years, he saw an opportunity to focus on specialized artisans and started his own business, Diagonal, first in the Miami market, then New York, and now Miami, New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. Tom will share with us what it feels like to live in West Hollywood. Hello, Tom.
Hi, Masha.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing fabulously, and I was so looking forward to our conversation today.
Me too.
So you live in a wonderful area of West Hollywood, and my first question to you is, how would you describe the overall vibe or atmosphere of the specific neighborhood of West Hollywood where you live? And why did you choose to live there?
Sure. Well, I think, when most people think of West Hollywood, they think of Santa Monica Boulevard, they think of Boys Town, they think of the Pump and all those big touristic attractions. I live west of Cienega, and it's got a really nice, small, friendly neighborhood vibe. It's like living in a garden, honestly, and the people are just lovely and friendly. I love seeing the hills and all the different vegetation. It's a real joy.
Oh, that's beautiful. What a great description. Like living in a garden. Wow.
And my friends agree when they come to visit. They think I'm exaggerating, and we walk 3 blocks and everybody agrees they've never seen such a variety of vegetation and flowers in their lives.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I also know that you live very close to the Schindler House. And how would you say the presence of this iconic architectural landmark had any direct impact on your life? Maybe it has affected your perception of design and creativity in some way?
Well, honestly, Masha, it's affected I'd say my perspective on Los Angeles, because I had no idea what it was. I didn't even know it existed. I discovered it in the middle of the COVID lockdowns, which is when I moved here, and just stopped and looked at this little sign that was in front of it, read about it, and it really piqued my interest. Went back and researched it and found out about this whole group of immigrants that came from Europe during World War II and to escape what was going on over there, who were very creative. They're architects and artists. And of course, that's what the Schindler House was about. And it really piqued my interest to see what else was in this neighborhood that I didn't know about. And sure enough, there's a lot of things that some of which are still here you can walk around and see, and other things that are gone.
Wow. Yes. Yes, a lot of things are gone. But would you say that when you found out that the Schindler House was there, did it inspire you in some way?
It inspired me more for discovery about what's in Los Angeles. I think it inspired me to get out and explore more neighborhoods. And I think the way to discover Los Angeles best is on foot. You have to have a place in mind to go, get out, walk around, bring a camera, Google it, do some research, and check it out while you're there. So I guess what it didn't inspire me professionally as much as it did, well, I guess personally, to go ahead and get into just the exploration of the city. Things are not as obvious as they might, people might think they are, and it involves a lot of just personal discovery. It gave me a feeling of discovery.
Yes, that's a beautiful feeling of discovery. I like the way you worded it. That's beautiful. And so when you were choosing to live in this specific neighborhood of West Hollywood, was there, a certain reason why you picked it, or did you hear about this specific neighborhood?
Masha, I had two reasons for living here. My very first visit to Los Angeles, I was living in New York at the time. It was a business trip. And, a lot of people in New York don't have a favorable impression of Los Angeles. And I really wasn't expecting much. And I fell in love with it. I was staying at the hotel that's now called the Sunset Towers, which is a beautiful Art Deco tower on Sunset Boulevard.
Yes.
That was actually built, as you probably know, as an apartment where a lot of movie stars lived. At the time, it was the St. James's Club. And I was in a room that had a view of the basin. It was this beautiful deco building with a pool, and they had terry cloth robes. And it just gave me the romance of what I always viewed old Hollywood being like. And I just fell in love with it. So that was my first taste of West Hollywood. And I always thought if I moved to Los Angeles, which I wanted to do someday, I'd live here. I'd like the hills and the vegetation. It was just beautiful. And then also my profession is based here. The Pacific Design Center is here. La Cienega Design Quarter is here. There's a lot of galleries and showrooms on Melrose and a lot of design studios. So professionally, it made a lot of sense. And mercifully, it just overlapped with what my favorite neighborhood turned out to be.
Yes. And you have just mentioned, a variety of very specific elements of this neighborhood that must have also shaped your personal lifestyle choices. Would you say so?
Yes, it absolutely has. I'd say it's a very intimate neighborhood. And, as I got to live here more, now again, it was an odd time to move here because everything was closed during COVID. But in many ways, it reminded me of the Upper East Side of New York. It was just it's a very different vibe if you're on Santa Monica Boulevard between La Cienega and Crescent Heights, and maybe even as far over as Fairfax. These are more local establishments. You've got some people from different neighborhoods and such that come here for fun, but it's a walking neighborhood.
Yes.
It's important to me, and it's in many ways, it's West Hollywood. There's many different West Hollywoods, right? Because you talk about going up the hill. Okay, you can drive, but I mentioned earlier, I really like to walk when I'm not working. And walking up that hill is very exerting. So I don't go over there that much. But it just made me realize there's a lot of small local places just to explore. And I like patronizing the local businesses. You get to know everybody by a first name basis. And it really has a friendly, sort of a small town or suburban town atmosphere.
Yes, this is so true. And I absolutely loved your comparison of this specific neighborhood of West Hollywood to Upper East Side of New York. I've never heard this comparison before. It's just so lovely.
Well, it reminded me of Carnegie Hill. I'll give you another one that you're going to like. We can talk about it another time if you like. And I always said the city that reminds me most of Los Angeles is London.
Wow.
Probably a conversation for another time.
Yes. Oh my God. What a great comparison. A very artistic comparison too. Wow. Never heard that before.
Yeah. Well, just the way it sprawls and the way they both were developed kind of in parcels, as people had large land holdings, sold it off, and they just constantly redeveloped it. But it's, they both are largely horizontal cities made up of little neighborhoods that are connected. And London has the tubes and some of those roads that get people around, and we've got the freeways.
Yes. Instead of the tube, we have the freeways. Yes. Very true.
Most people don't agree with that assessment, but I feel very strongly about it.
Yes. I can see why.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, you have this incredible profession, and you represent artisans, craftsmen, and artists, to professionals who work in architecture, to interior designers, and to decorators. And I know your project office is also located in West Hollywood. How would you say that this specific location influenced your work and collaboration with creative people?
Well, again, I would say it was the neighborhood that I really, when I moved to Los Angeles, I really decided I needed to be in West Hollywood. One, for just credibility in the design business, because the showrooms are here and most designers and architects are used to the resources being based here. So that was kind of a natural draw for me. But the proximity to the community is also important. So, for example, I'm literally 4 blocks away from Kelly Wersler's office, or 8 blocks away from Martin Brouillard Lawrence's office, 2 blocks away from Natasha Baradin. So, I mean, I can just walk over with a tote bag and drop off samples, which is really, really nice.
Yes.
And it's also nice for the designers to know that it's, I'm really close by. So I'm just literally a phone call or a couple steps away. But also, what I'm doing is a little bit different because I do have a project office. I don't have a showroom. I don't have a street presence because I'm just not equipped to deal with that sort of setup. And it really is not conducive for my model.
Right.
And I found that, my clients do like coming here to visit. The reaction I get from everybody is they're a little surprised because I'm working out of an apartment that's on the first floor off the lobby. But the comment that everybody has is, oh my God, you have it set up like a New York loft. And they really like it because it's, I've got all my materials and such laid out for people to work with. But it's also pretty. It's right in the heart of West Hollywood. There's a lot of trees. We're very close to the restaurants and such. So my clients find it refreshing and very accessible.
Oh, how creative. You almost did bring New York with you to West Hollywood. Huh.
That's what they told me. I tried to leave it behind, but I guess I brought the best parts with me.
And I bet it does give you more credibility because, New York is, such a sophisticated city and like talking about art and culture and design. And for you to literally have created it here, what a remarkable job you did.
Well, I like what I do because I'd like to think what I'm actually doing is bringing things that help the people I work with do what they do better. And then I'm bringing resources that they really wouldn't have access to otherwise. And it really helps the designers and architects I work with elevate their work. There's a lot of sort of lookalike things going on out there. And it's very, very hard for these people in the design industry to wow their clients with products and furniture, textiles, carpets, whatever that everyone hasn't seen before. And I really feel lucky that I've got the talent I work with that can allow designers to do that, to create something really unique and special.
Yes. And I must say that your profession is so unique because on the one hand, you are the voice to artisans and to artists, who do need help and who
Correct.
do need an agent and need to be represented so that other people will get, exposure to their work. And at the same time, all the creative professionals that you work with, from architects to interior designers and decorators, they do need, exactly as you said, wow their clients with some authentic, genuine, and also unique work that you were able to bring to them, having done your research and, being the voice for the artists who create it. That's quite incredible what you're doing.
Well, thank you. It's a lot of fun. And, it's interesting when I see people, generally the reaction is, most of them thank me. They thank me for finding them. They thank me for seeing them, which is nice. It makes you feel good. But also they're kind of like, we think it's weird. We've never heard of you before, seen anything of yours before, but we kind of like the fact that it's not all over the internet. So, I guess it's that element of surprise and discovery that's important for them also. And it's a lot of fun because sometimes they'll take a meeting and they'll say like, well, I only have 10 minutes. And the meeting could go on for 2 hours and it's just them, they start pulling out plans and we get to work.
Right. So from the wealth of your experience, what advice would you give to aspiring architects, interior designers, or artisans who wish to live in a neighborhood that fosters their creativity and inspiration, and maybe how they can do their work better or add certain elements that you have observed are necessary for being more successful in the field where they work?
Well, I think the first thing that's not limited to any of the professions that you just described, but in life in general, but certainly to those professions. And that is just to go for it and put yourself out there. I mean, I got into this business just because I allowed it to happen. I followed his dreams and passions and it happened and the rest fell into place. So I think part of it is making the decision it's something you want to do, putting yourself out in that universe and just doing it. It also means circulating with the people. So, I will say the real estate is expensive in West Hollywood. And I wouldn't want somebody that's young and aspiring to be put off by that, because there's probably kids that are graduating design school in architecture in East LA, South LA, the Valley, parts of town that are far away. And they shouldn't feel, I would say, any less apt or able to do it because of their geographic location. They can come into this area whenever they need to, or wherever they need to go for their inspiration. But I do think it's important that they just go ahead and do it. Join the organizations, also go to the showrooms and introduce yourself. There's a really nice collaborative, supportive community here. And this is a community-based industry, which is what I really like about it.
Yes. And
a lot of people here to support them.
Yes. And this is so very true when you're saying that you just need to go and put yourself out there, because oftentimes people can feel shy, and usually people are shy because they maybe think they're not good enough, for example, because they have this opinion about their work. Or they're just afraid to fail. But putting yourself out there is really trying to do your best, and maybe sometimes failing, which means that these are little steps to your success. And showing up is the first thing that you have to do in any profession.
100%. And I also think it's kind of putting your priorities straight. I got into this just by following my heart. Had I gone and put a price tag or salary requirement, I probably wouldn't have done it. You just have to sometimes pick what your priorities are, and the salary and all that other stuff will fall into place. But I think it's important to just follow your heart. So if you love architecture, if you love design, if you love designing textiles or furniture, or whatever it is, just go ahead and do it and savor that enjoyment that it gives you. Maybe have another job on the side if that's what you need to do. But I think it's really important to follow your heart and your passion, and the rest will fall into place.
Yes. Oh my God, I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for this amazing advice. I hope it will help many, many people who will be able to, just do it and show up.
Absolutely. And I think it's also important. I'll mention this, how I discovered this industry was a friend put me in touch with somebody. I had been working at Madison Avenue at the time, knew nothing about it. And a very nice man who was the former head of the PDC just took my call, and he was just a wonderful human being. He said, "You know what? I think you'd be good at," and he described what I do now. I'd never heard of it before. But I think it's important for people to just understand that there's a lot of support out there, and a lot of really good people that are willing to help, and just don't be shy. Go for it.
Yes. Staying open and just, following your heart. Beautiful. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much.
Of course.
And my other question is, how would you describe the deeper significance or maybe emotional connection that your personal home holds for you? What would you say is the heart of your home?
Masha, that's a really interesting question, because you're also dealing with somebody that's moved a lot. I've lived in Europe. I lived in South America. I've lived in different parts of the country. And what I found is that home is really something that, well, you bring with you, and it emanates from you. So it can be, for example, I'm happily married. So I think family for me is where home is. Wherever my family is where home is. It's not necessarily the structure. And I had another really interesting experience happen when I was living in South Beach. My father was eager to get rid of a storage unit, which had a big old English break front that my grandmother had, and I didn't want it. It had nothing to do with South Beach. It's a cherry wood, and it just was nothing I wanted. But my father pressured me to take this thing, and it arrived, and I just felt such an immediate sense of comfort. It took me right back to my childhood, and I just felt all of the love and the nurturing of my grandmother's home right there. And similarly, I'll say my father passed away a couple of months ago, and there's a bunch of family items that nobody got rid of, and I had to deal with that stuff. But I also found a lot of things that, I hadn't seen in ages, things like a charm bracelet of my mother. And, as a young kid, it's, you're at eye level with the bracelet. Guess what? I've got the charm bracelet on a door, so it acts as a chime. And I just feel all that with me. So, I think it's the people and the memories you create in the home. And then there are certain objects that can just enhance that sense of protection, warmth, nurturing. And to me, that's what home is. It's a sanctuary.
Oh, what a beautiful, beautiful description of how you brought basically all of your history, your childhood with you to the home where you're at now, and how you created it together, with your family and with these objects that are so dear to your heart.
They're powerful reminders that they're with us and around us all the time.
Yes, yes, I know. And actually, I have a piece of my childhood with me here as well that I brought with me from Russia. And it's an old clock that I remember looking at throughout my entire childhood. And this clock doesn't work anymore. So, yes, and the time on this clock is actually stopped at the time when my father passed away back in 1996.
Wow.
And this clock for me is one of the dearest, precious, things that I have, because it's almost like, yes, I'm here and this is my childhood here with me. And it's sort of, because it doesn't work and I don't want it to work, but it shows the timelessness, of our existence in a way.
It does, but I think they're almost like a talisman that just, like connects you with the spirit of your family, so to speak.
Yes. Yes, very true. Very true.
Just good reminders.
Yes, very true. So thank you so much for sharing about, these elements that you have at your home. So that actually it reminded me that I have one of those as well.
Everybody should. Everybody should. I'm also now, my new thing is I'm having my afternoon tea on my family's fancy china they never used. And it's a great, great thing to do. It just surrounds yourself with these great memories. They're wonderful if you were lucky enough to have them, and they're something that should be savored every day.
Yes, savor every day. Seize the day. Carpe diem.
Yes.
Yes, very
That's
true.
right.
So, Tom, now I have a few blitz questions about West Hollywood that I'd like to ask you. And one of the first questions is, what is your favorite store in West Hollywood?
Well, to be honest with you, Masha, I'm not a big shopper. So I would say you're going to laugh when you hear this. My favorite store is Gelson's.
Oh.
Well, and it's my favorite store because it's like a real neighborhood place. We know all the cash registers, the women at the cashier stands, the deli counter, the fruit market. So actually during COVID, I found that really comforting. It was so isolating, and it just gave me some sense of, connection to community. So that is my favorite store, although it's not a retail store.
Right. And you can probably walk there too, right?
Absolutely. I can walk to everything. That's why I'm here.
Yes.
And I do.
Yes. So what is your favorite restaurant?
Well, I am somewhat peculiar in that I don't believe in favorites or rankings, because it's going to depend on your mood, right? Everything has different attributes that you can really enjoy and connect with at the time. So I'm going to just rattle off a few that I would say are the ones I tend to go to more, which of course, again, are all within walking distance. I'm not a good Angelino in that I don't really drive out to restaurants that often. But I would say it ranges from, like brunch places like Hugo's, or happy hour and outdoor dining at La Boheme. There's a great pizza place that has organic pizzas and Italian food that's called Pura Vita. There's a great little coffee shop called Joey's Cafe. And, I'm really casual, Masha. I don't like getting dressed up. I like just strolling around. I don't like having to make reservations. And there's a lot of these great little neighborhood places that you can go to here that are mostly locals, and you get attended to and treated really nicely.
Oh, that is the best. You know what? Being casual and just being able to walk everywhere and actually knowing the people at the places where you go, this really gives you a very deep sense of community. Well,
and I will say that if you or your listeners are looking for a recommendation of someplace that's worth driving to, I would say maybe while you're over here, Nora is fun. It's relatively new. It's got a beautiful space, nice staff. They have indoor and outdoor dining and a pretty wide variety of offerings on the menu. And it kind of has a fun, sexy buzz. So if you do want to get dressed up and make a reservation, I'd say go to Nora.
Okay.
Yeah. Good cocktails too.
Great. Well, you did mention that you love going for walks, and I'd love to ask you, what are your, and you did say that you don't have anything favorite, so which is great because it all depends on the mood. And so what are the streets that you can sometimes be in the mood for?
Well, again, there's so many streets around here that have just different attributes, right? Where the architecture is just special or really all crazily mixed in, or the gardens and the vegetation. But I would say the street that I find myself walking down most and taking friends to see would be, going down my street is lovely. You can go and see the Schindler House, and then cutting over Waring to Sweetser. And there's a lovely block on Sweetser that has some duplexes and just has a really funny mix of typical LA architecture. There's like Spanish colonial. There's a cute little English Tudor hotel called the Charlie that's right next to the Spanish style building.
Oh yeah, the Charlie. It's a cute hotel.
Isn't it cute? And
yes.
Then there's a Tunisian style house there. So it's really lovely. And I just find that whenever people come to visit me, we start on those two streets, and then people are like, wow, you really weren't kidding, were you? And I'm like, yep, it's like, and then it's different every time. There's always something different blooming and blossoming, and it's just lovely.
Yes, it's like getting your exercising in.
Yes, at the same time.
At the same time, that's true.
Yeah, seeing the sights.
Well, Tom, thank you so much for this beautiful and inspiring conversation, and
That's my pleasure.
Describing, neighborhood as a garden, where you enjoy going for walks, and where you're so close to so many design studios, and you can literally walk to all of them. And thank you for continuous work of supporting artists and giving them a voice, and at the same time really elevating the work, as you mentioned, of architects and interior designers, because people always need this person who will, bring everything together and who will make it happen, because humans, we work the best when we work in a team. So in a way, you are the glue that holds like this very creative teams together. So it's so wonderful what you're doing.
I love it. I feel really lucky, and I pinch myself every day. I really do.
Very, very great.
Yeah.
Good. And I hope that it will also be an inspiration to many people to try and who are trying to find their path in life as well.
I hope so too.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you, Masha.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much for tuning in to feel and experience West Hollywood with my special guest, Tom Engle. If you enjoy my podcast, In the Mood for California, please sign up for future episodes at your preferred platform, and please leave your feedback. I really appreciate your time and support. You can follow me on Instagram at In the Mood for California, and check out my website, www.inthemoodforcalifornia.com. I'm a realtor with Beverly & Company Luxury Properties, and my license number is 019-78714. Selling and buying homes with soul is not just my real estate strategy. It is an intuitive and holistic approach that embraces your values, aspirations, and conscious intentions. If you want to discover the power of mindfulness in your real estate journey with my compassionate guidance, I'm here for you. Next time, we're traveling again to magical Brentwood. Looking forward to seeing you there.
In the Mood for California, feel the soul of Old Hollywood.